Last month, both Idaho and Utah were the first states in the country to pass legislation that bans political flags from government buildings and public schools. Well, of course, we know that Democrats think they are above the law. So it's no surprise that the Democrat mayors of Boise and Salt Lake City have other plans than obeying this new law in their states. Hey everyone, I'm Julie Barrett. I'm the founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And today we are in the red states of Idaho and Utah. We did a Substack article about the legislation that recently passed in both of these states about not being able to fly political flags on government buildings and in public schools. So the only flags that they're allowed to fly on government buildings are things like, of course, the American flag, the POW flag, any government flags, city flags, state flags, or tribal flags are allowed to be flown. This is really an effort to get rid of the political flags like the Black Lives Matter flag or the Pride flag or any of the other sexuality flags that are being flown in many Democrat areas around the country. Well, of course, Democrats feel that they are above the law and they don't follow laws that they don't agree with. So it's no surprise that last night, Tuesday, May 6th, it's no surprise that both Boise and Salt Lake City, which are both blue cities, passed resolutions adding to the exempted flags official city flags that include these political flags. So we're going to dive in and look at what happened in each of these cities. Last night, the Boise City Council approved 5-1 to add the Boise City flag, the Pride flag, and the organ donor flag as the official city flags in the law that was passed, which was Idaho's House Bill 96, which unfortunately doesn't have a lot of teeth to enforce the bill. But in the bill, there is a statute for exemptions. And so it exempts any flags that are official city flags. Well, that is why they've done a resolution to adopt the Pride flag as one of Boise's official city flags. They see this as a loophole in the law for them to include their Pride flag as an official flag. Therefore, they are not in violation of the law. Now, it's very clear with this law that the legislature of Idaho was really trying to make sure that none of the government buildings were flying Pride flags or any of the other sexuality flags, which really do cause division. So they understand the law and they have no intention of abiding with the spirit of the law, which hopefully next session, the Idaho legislature will come back and amend this particular law to include some kind of enforcement mechanism. One of the common things we hear from the left as far as the LGBTQ agenda is that we have to do this to be inclusive. We have to do this to show everyone in our community that they're included and supported. But what I want you to know is that's actually not the agenda at all. And if you talk to anyone who's lesbian or gay, that's not part of the what I call the alphabet mafia, they don't need a flag on a government building to make themselves feel included, to make themselves feel seen. If you haven't read the book, The Queering of the American Child by Logan Lansing, I highly recommend it because it really walks through the agenda behind the alphabet mafia and what they're really trying to do. It is 100% a Marxist agenda. It's not about making people feel included and supported and loved. One of the council members spoke up in support of this resolution for the Pride flag, and he talked about this weird story about how long ago, early in his marriage, he was driving along and he was keeping a secret, and he thought how great it would be if maybe just, he got hit and killed in a car accident, and then he wouldn't have to deal with these secrets. But, oh, I'm not gay. It is the weirdest thing. He was suggesting that by putting the Pride flag on the Boise City building would somehow make someone who was keeping a secret feel like they didn't have to.
And I had a secret, and in retrospect, the secret was very small and dumb. But when you're young and 20, and it felt very big and it felt very weighty. And sometimes I would drive home. I had a long commute along the highway, and I would just wonder, like, what if another car just hit me and I wouldn't have to talk about this? I wouldn't have to bring this up with my family, and I wouldn't have to deal with the consequences of what I felt were a pretty big deal. And it was a really hard time in my life. Eventually got out of it with great support from my lovely wife. And um, I'm not gay. I know that there are other people driving to and from work all the time that feel the way I felt. What if what if I just went right off the road? What if another car came and got me and I wouldn't have to deal with this thing? And I just hope just once that the city of Boise's flag, like someone will see that and know that they are not alone.
This kind of talk is 100% emotional manipulation. And unfortunately, people on the right, people to the right of far left, have fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. We think that if we don't agree with everything LGBTQ, that somehow we're not being inclusive or compassionate. And that's just not the case. We can love other people without agreeing to push a Marxist agenda into our government and into our public schools. And that is 100% the agenda behind what is going on. And that is why you'll see a lot of these people from the alphabet mafia that come out to all of these city council meetings or county council meetings or to the state legislature. Back in 2023, when we were fighting Senate Bill 5599 in Olympia, which is the bill to allow children who are wanting to receive so-called gender affirming care to live in host homes or youth shelters without their parents' notification. Every single time the alphabet mafia was there in full force to testify in person, to testify remotely. They were signing in support of the bill. They do not back down from this. And yes, some of them, many of them are paid, but there is a huge effort on the left to bring people in to support their causes. And sadly, our side is often not even there. It looks like there was a good showing of common sense citizens in Boise last night. It looked like there was maybe equal on the right and on the left. But here's the thing that you need to know, especially if you are my Washington friends who are leaving for Idaho, Utah, Florida, wherever you might be going, the left is not content to stay in Seattle or to stay in Washington or to stay in any blue city, whether it's Miami or Boise or Salt Lake City. They want to infiltrate every inch of this country. And if we, as common sense citizens who love America and want it to remain free, if we are not willing to get in the game, go to the city council meetings, make a public comment, email the city council members, if we're not willing to do those small things, we won't see just the big cities being taken over. Because if you live in the Seattle area, I remember, 20, 30 years ago when Seattle was quirky and weird and totally leftist. And I think we kind of took for granted that that quirky leftism would stay in Seattle. But if you live in Western Washington, you know that they have gone out into the suburbs and areas of Western Washington that were once very conservative have flipped to the left because the left knows that they need to engage in local politics, in local government. And this is how they take over cities, counties, states, and eventually they will take over the entire country if we, as common sense citizens, don't stand up and stop them. So let's take a look at what happened in Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City Mayor, Aaron Mendenhall, did something similar to what was done in Boise, and they adopted new flags into their city ordinance that are official flags of Salt Lake City. But they didn't stop with just one pride flag. They've got the pride flag, the trans flag, and the Juneteenth flag, in addition to their Salt Lake City flag. The mayor said, "Our city flags are powerful symbols representing Salt Lake City's values. I want all Salt Lakers to look up at these flags and be reminded that we value diversity, equity, and inclusion, leaving no doubt that we are united as a city and people moving forward together." So again, with the emotional manipulation, if you don't agree with this, you don't want unity, you don't want diversity, you don't want inclusion. Well, I'm sorry, that's what the American flag is. That is what our flag stands for, that all citizens are created equal by God and should be treated equally under the law. Our American flag stands for liberty and justice for all, not just heterosexuals, not just lesbians, not just gays, not just queers, for all human beings. And this idea that we should put up special flags for special groups of people so that they feel better about themselves, this is not the American way. And saying that we don't want to have pride flags or trans flags or BLM or Juneteenth flags on government buildings is not exclusive of any one people. It doesn't belong. Let's put our American flag up and be unified under the United States flag. But you and I both know that that's not what they want. They don't want unity and liberty and justice for all. They want to usher in a Marxist agenda that is anti American. That is what they're pushing into the public schools. They want to indoctrinate the children to hate the American way, to hate their country. And if we don't start showing up, like I said earlier, we've got to start showing up to these city council meetings, to these school board meetings, to the state legislature. If we're not willing to show up, they are going to take ground. They're going to take every inch of this country. I know this is crazy stuff, and I know it's easy to look at these things and think, oh my gosh, the libs are so crazy. And they are. But we've got to step into the game. We've got to reinforce the conservatives and the common sense people that we are electing to office. We've got to give them that kind of reinforcement, and we've got to help ensure that they get reelected. There will be a lot of local seats up for grabs this year, and I encourage you to find a candidate that you can support, that you can help with their campaign, that you could door knock for or make calls for or post stuff on social media for them. Or maybe you should run. Take a look at what seats are open in your local area and consider if you are being called to run for elected office. There is something that each of us can do. It could be small, it could be big, but there is some way that each of us can engage in the fight. So I encourage you to give that some thought, because what we're seeing happening in Boise and happening in Salt Lake City is something that's happening all across the country. And it's our duty to get involved and make sure that this doesn't continue to spread like wildfire. Boise and Salt Lake City are going to be cities that we will be watching very closely. It will be interesting to see what the attorney generals in these states do about these mayors who are disregarding the newly passed laws. Utah's law on the flags, it has more of an enforcement mechanism, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And we'll also be watching Idaho to see if the legislature does come back next year to amend this law and add some teeth to the enforcement side of this policy. I would love to hear what you think about what's going on in Boise and Salt Lake City. And have you seen this going on in your local area? And are you involved? We'd love to hear from you. Please do share this video. Let everybody know what's going on in these blue cities in red states so that we can engage citizens to step up and take action. If you're not already, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to our Substack. That's the best way to get breaking alerts and calls to action. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.